Do you know the difference between someone who is toxic and someone who is hurt? Would you like to know how to identify which they are right away? I was trying to explain to my 9-year-old daughter this morning the difference between a toxic person and a hurting person lashing out. I thought I would make a short video to help out some other people. This is going to be very short and sweet and in layman's terms. I'm very good at spotting whether or not someone is toxic, hurting, or lower than average intelligence. Oftentimes, I'll experiment with my hypothesis by engaging with them to try to find out whether or not I'm right. I'm very good at taking hurting people who may be lashing out at me or criticizing me and making them love me. Oftentimes, all one needs to do is rebuff anger with playfulness or exposing them to authenticity, and then they're often surprised. There are probably many people watching this whom I've done this to, and they're now followers. However, a toxic person is someone who is abusive all the time. They ooze toxicity. A hurt person can be toxic in their lashing out, but a toxic person behaves that way all the time. I once made a video saying that I thought the most instant way you could identify whether or not a person was toxic was by noticing how they spoke of others. Toxic people justify treating others badly and seeing themselves as victim heroes in all scenarios, so they need to cast others in the role of villains in order to do so. Now, I will give you some examples. Someone who is toxic immediately attacks someone else's person, whether through insults or some other way. Hurt people, on the other hand, tend to attack concepts. You've heard it said that great minds speak of concepts, while small minds speak of people. So a hurt person could take issue with something that I say and attack the concept, which they may not realize gives me an opportunity to humanize them and pull them out of some of that hurt. Meanwhile, a toxic person gives no such opening. They simply ignorantly attack someone else's person. Now, it is important to note that you can also tell whether or not someone is toxic by the concept that they attack. If they are attacking a concept that goes against natural goodness, they are either ignorant or toxic. A good example of this would be the time I saw a woman who posted a video of herself kissing her deformed baby, and a string of toxic people commenting that she should have killed her baby. They were arguing for something that clearly goes against the natural laws of goodness, such as love and dignity. The virtues, really. Anyone who has issues with any virtues, they're toxic. Another example I had for my daughter this morning was when I found a random woman's TikTok and she was going on and on about how useless a specific group of people were. Men. She was obviously bitter in this video, but seeing as it was only about a minute, I took each statement she said and broke them down one by one to explain how each demonstrated her miserable state in life. So then we went to her channel, and I told my daughter that if I was correct about this person, then any random videos I clicked on would further demonstrate that this woman was toxic versus someone who just made a video while she was in a bad mood and out of her mind. The random video it shows had her lip syncing to a sound clip about how she's a bitch and proud. So she showed her true colors. Pro tip: any woman who brags about being a bitch, you ought to believe she's telling you that she's a bad person. Back away, let her alone, absolutely do not breed with her, and let her influence die out as quickly as possible. These women who brag about being bitches are always extremely toxic and abusive. A woman's desire to be known as a bad bitch stems from her desire for power and control, and oftentimes is expressed by very emotionally volatile people with low self-confidence who are desperate to be seen as cool. So they attempt to mimic terrible role models. They aren't cool. They're just toxic women demanding attention. Now, I will put up with hurt people. I'll even raise them up. However, I do not put up with toxic bullies. In fact, one of the greatest joys of my life is crushing them in one sentence and yeeting them right out the window. I have fun with bad people. Because remember, once someone puts a target on you, you cannot help them out of their misery. So you might as well crush their spirit to give the bully pause in the future so that you can spare someone else from their tendencies. It's true that if I were to go to hell for anything, It would be the amount of pleasure I take in putting toxic bullies in their place. So there you have it. Hurt people may attack concepts, which is perfectly within their right. It's in everyone's right. In these cases, I personally ask you to offer mercy and consider raising them up by first taking no personal offense at them and recognizing where they might be coming from. Toxic people attack other people or stand for disordered viewpoints that go against natural dignities, or championing unspeakable things to happen to innocent people. Now, I also wish to extend this plea for mercy for people who are below average intelligence. It's not hard to spot after a few short interactions, and quite honestly, it doesn't matter how right you are if you recognize that you have an intellectual ability on someone else. It's bullying to continue to publicly argue with someone whom you realize is BAI. If I see intelligent people arguing with obviously less intelligent people, trying to score points on the dumber one, that person looks really bad. Don't be toxic.